Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you're back, we are so thrilled that you're here. And if you're new, we give you a warm welcome. My name is Lisa Lytle. I'm here with my work colleague, Sue Bowder, and we both work professionally within our umbrella company of Holistic Dementia Services. What we love so much about what we're bringing to you with this particular offering is we really focus on both the individual with a dementia diagnosis and care partner. So we're thrilled that you're here today. I'm going to immediately turn it over to Sue because she has a question for everyone today. So Sue, you take it away.
You. So I invite you to take a breath and consider this within yourself. Notice the immediate response, and then we're going to, it'll be a response that's within your own privacy. Um, and then also just we'll take a few breaths continuing to see what else comes up. And this is the question that Lisa and I would like to raise today. Who in your life truly sees you? We never, we never lose the desire to have someone really see who we are and where we are at this moment, at this juncture in our life journey. And so, as people with the diagnosis, as care partners of those with the dementia, again, we ask you, who at this point in your life really sees you? There's the reality within this dementia journey, actually, both for the person with dementia, but also for the care partner, both, to experience isolation, to, to feel a loneliness in the journey. So let's consider, first of all, within your own relationship with each other. Are you feeling seen? And now I'm asking you, take away any judgment, any blaming. This is a tough journey that each of you are on. And we want to acknowledge, Lisa and I, we often talk with each other about this, that this journey of dementia requires a daily acknowledgement that you don't really know who you're waking up to. Who are you with now today in this moment? It may be the same as yesterday, or it may be that you're in some new territory. And so regularly, almost sometimes it seems constantly, there is this need to take a breath and to ask ourselves, how well are we seeing each other? How well are we setting aside judgment of ourselves for being in a new place? How well are we, without judgment, allowing ourselves to recognize, to be aware that we're so tired or we're so distracted by perhaps hallucinations, if you have a form of dementia that brings in these changes that makes it really hard for you to be able to see so many things that everyone is juggling in this journey. And we want to acknowledge you in this. And then we want to invite you into this place of no judgment, where you can ask yourself, you can be aware of your ability or your inability to truly see. And then we want to talk today about realities of that and ways to be able to increase our willingness and our ability to be able to see each other and to receive one another in this moment. I'm going to pause and Lisa, ask you to talk about what's rising for you now as I've been sharing.
Yeah. Whew. I want to just say that it's a human desire. Even if you're outside of the dementia diagnosis or care partnering, as a human being, there's a deep desire to be seen. It just gets highlighted. It gets amplified, right? When we've got a specific diagnosis. And so I'm going to invite into this conversation, how curious are we? I love the curiosity of really seeing who's in front of me any day. Sue and I work together as professionals. And I also recognize there are times where maybe a week goes by and we might be in the vehicle going off to do a job that we've been hired to do. I get to be curious about who's Sue? Who is she today? She's had a whole week of experiences. And for me to think that if I hold her in last week's Sue, she's been changed. She's bumped up against things that have profoundly shifted her heart, her awareness, her knowledge. And so I just say, I invite all of us to be really curious about who is it that we're meeting every day. And like I said, that does get very amplified because brain changes can literally daily force us to be in a relationship with a new person. And so I'm not at all saying this is an easy ask. I just invite us into, in a more lighthearted spirit way, to say, wow, I wonder who this is today. Who am I meeting today? And how can I be in a new relationship with the person that I'm finding myself being in front of? I like that word curiosity. So when I'm meeting, we do a particular outreach where we go up and it's once a month. And I recognize, wow, a month is a huge amount of time. So every time I'm meeting the people, because we have both those with a dementia diagnosis and care partner at the table together, and I know when I see these individuals again a month later, wow, they can be very different. And I am just open to who's at the table and what are they bringing that day. And so I'm hoping that that will help just put it in a light that's a little bit lighter and not so heavy. So that's what was kind of bubbling up for me, Sue. So I'm going to just again hand it back to you, but I like the curiosity part. That's kind of how I step into these relationships as I'm meeting this individual with the dementia diagnosis in particular, and even a care partner. I am always stunned sometimes at the differences I see. It might be that you're tired. Sometimes it's exhausting and you're getting up at odd hours or you're checking on your loved one, and there's a lot to navigate and there's anxiety and concerns. And so sometimes even the care partner that I'm seeing after a month, I'm noticing some things. And if it's something of concern where I think, wow, I'm a little concerned for their well-being at this point, I will step in privately and have a conversation with them about, is everything okay? Has something happened for you that's changed? I'm just noticing some unusual things about your face. Maybe you look tired. So that's curiosity on the concern side, but I think both the playfulness of curiosity and question, and then also just the curiosity of who's really in front of me from a concerned perspective, both of those can live side by side. So, yeah. So, what's bubbling up for you, Sue, now?
Well, I'm thinking about how many of my care partners will say, this is such an intense journey that what my partner and I or my spouse and I have decided is that every day we're going to make sure that there's something that we laugh about. So I absolutely add my acknowledgement to what you're saying, Lisa, about somehow finding light moments, and it may be something, even laughing at something that's happening. And then I have to say that there is this juggling act, because while there is like this capability that we can continue to have for laughing at the changes, or, you know, just being in a place of such gratitude for the years that we've had, the perspective of like looking back and thinking, wow, there have been so many chapters in this relationship that we've had with one another, and I want to value all of them and find ways to be able to negotiate the ways in which this is a tough journey. And so I also want to acknowledge, on the other hand, of the curiosity and the gratitude and the just the appreciation for all of the chapters of life together, that there is also this reality of loss, that part of the loneliness is connected with grief, that we are no longer who we used to be, right? So individually, we're changed. Individually, we all change just with aging. We're not who we were 20 years ago, right? Um, there is this way in which part of the acknowledgement and part of the space that we need to give ourselves is to feel the feelings of loss and of disappointment, that maybe these years aren't what we had looked forward to. And so there is definitely always, and from stage to stage, there is a grieving process that takes place. And so I think if somehow you can commit to yourself, um, that you're going to allow both to be true, right? I'm gonna let myself grieve, and I'm going to let myself find lightness in this. For those who are living with the diagnosis yourself, I think about how often the care partners have talked about how deeply moved they are and how it gives them nourishment to keep on going. When you, as the one who are having the change in your cognition, are still capable of being able to express thanks, a simple thank you. And it seems to me that what can sometimes block your ability to say that is the reality of you experiencing grief. And not only grief, but guilt. So many of those who live with the diagnosis will talk about how guilty they feel for no longer being able to take care of the household um, maintenance projects and staying on top of finances. Most often, people with dementia will find that they can no longer deal with the keeping track of the finances. And it may have been that for many years that was what their role was. So in the midst of these changing roles, to be able to dig in and to so love yourself, even in the midst of these changing capabilities, to know that you are still the beautiful you who has the capacity to look at the one who is giving grace to your changes, and to be able to literally say, thank you, to say, I love you, to be freed for a moment from that guilt and just celebrate the unbelievable, unconditional love that this person is providing for your life, right? And so I encourage you to make sure that you're getting enough support for your life, that you know inside that you are a worthy person. You are still you in your essence. And then just simply be able to express thank you. And maybe you're not a person, or maybe your relationship has never been one where you verbally acknowledge one another. So then just making sure that you step forward and give, give a hug, or like stop by in the kitchen with your loved one, your spouse, your partner, your friend, and just lay your hand on your shoulder. I know for my husband in his changes that often he's in the kitchen and he still loves being able to cook most of our meals. He's 15 years older than I am. And so he has a lot more time in his full retirement. And yes, it's getting different. Our meals are being simpler. And I still really, really appreciate his willingness, even with the changing of his abilities, to offer that gift to me. And so there are times when I'll come up behind him and simply wrap my arms around him. And I don't say a thing. I lay my head on the top of his back. And he can feel my appreciation for him. So, Lisa, I'm going to go back to you because I've been speaking now. I kind of have made a transition into perhaps the care partner experience, but maybe there are more things that you want to say also to those who are living with the diagnosis of dementia.
Yes, and something that came up for me in the care partner experience that I'd like to give voice to is we hear a lot about if the care partner at times can be at a great distance from family, for instance, perhaps the family is coming to visit for a couple of overnights. And they'll come in and they've been hearing from the care partner how difficult this is. And, I'm not sleeping and it's so stressful and I'm concerned. And the family is very worried and they're concerned and they come to visit. And the individual with the dementia rallies and really puts their best foot forward. And all of a sudden, the family has this disconnect from what they've been hearing from the care partner, the loved one. They're like, wait a minute. If it's a father, let's say, like, I don't see anything wrong with dad. He's pretty good and he remembers who I am and had a great conversation this morning. And I'm going to say to the care partner, we see you. And we also know how the individual with dementia can rally in that way and really manage to muster up a lot of cognitive ability and a lot of ability to stay focused in conversation to give the appearance that everything's kind of okay. And then what happens? Family leaves, they go home, the individual with dementia, because they've been putting out all of this enormous energy, is totally wiped out and exhausted. They can lay down and sleep for 2 days. The care partner is left with now wrestling with the family saying what you saw isn't the day-to-day reality because it isn't. They're seeing a lot of changes. They're seeing someone that is exhausted, that is afraid, and can also let their guard down and just be themselves with these brain changes. And so I just want to say to the care partner, we've seen that reality play out and we see you. We know this is a challenge. So really stepping in to have conversation with family to let them know that this happens. This is just part of the process to kind of just validate for you your day-to-day experience because it can be. This is not always the case, but it can be very different than what the person with dementia is putting forth that day. So I just want to say to that, we've seen this play out over and over, and we see you. We know that this is not the experience that you're having daily. So really acknowledging that, and then also letting the family know that this is not unusual and that what you are experiencing daily is really your reality. Because it can feel that your experience is not being validated, but we know it's real. We know the struggle is real. So we do see that. So I wanted to really just give voice to that, Sue. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'd
please
like to
jump
just
in.
step into that as well to
Absolutely.
say that then I'm thinking again of the question that we asked as far as who really sees you. That so often care partners on my support groups will talk about the fact that really even some of their closest friends really truly, and they understand that the other person who isn't experiencing a dementia journey with their loved ones, they get it that these friends may not really see what they're going through. Um, that being said, that's part of the loneliness, right? And so really letting your if possible. And it's such a weight that goes on to people with the dementia experience, both the person with the diagnosis and the care partner, to have to really kind of educate other people. But it is true, no matter what we go through, and that can be true for the cancer diagnosis or something as seemingly simple as GI issues or whatever, right? That it if somebody else isn't experiencing our world, then there does need to be some willingness to educate or orient the person. And so I know that that takes an added kind of energy. And in part, it can some days be easier to just withdraw and say, well, the isolation is in a way easier than trying to tell my friend how to really see what I'm experiencing. But I think it's so worth it if and when it's possible for you to be able to help others to see you, right? And then I want to shift a bit because the other thing that was going on for me is I was thinking about how for Lisa and I, that we often talk about with a holistic dementia services approach, that we want to be able to focus on to see capabilities, to see um, preserved abilities, those strengths that are there. Everywhere we go in the management of the disease processes is addressing the things that are lost. And while that's really important, I think that this topic that we're focusing on today, in terms of the ability to really deeply see one another, is to be able to decide to look at what is still working, right? So there's a lot of attention in appointments and in doctor's appointments. There's a lot of attention in terms of strategies that we talk about in support groups to be able to focus with how do we handle this and that in terms of communication, in terms of changing capabilities for or lack of abilities for now being able to handle the activities of daily living, the ADLs, right? Also, just each day, we're inviting the practice of deciding, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to look again. Yes, I can't help but see whether it's within myself as someone with the changes, or if I'm looking at this person who I miss in terms of who they used to be, wherever and whoever we are in that, to practice. We want to invite you to a practice of strength-based living. How
Mhm.
can I say, yes, I've lost all these things, and these are some things that I'm still good at, right? That I'm going to value in myself. So this is us saying to ourselves, I see you. I see myself. I see these other parts of me that want to be known and recognized. And for the care partner to say, well, I'm going to look at you in this moment and see what you are still capable of, who you still are, with your beautiful smile, with your ability still, even as you're having difficulty with finding words, I'm noticing that you've become a better listener. Wow, that's so beautiful. So, yeah, just Lisa, what are your thoughts too about strength-based seeing?
Oh, you will find this as no surprise, but that's exactly the direction I would have gone in. Because what I really wanted to discuss just briefly is a little story, and I will leave names out, of course, for privacy. However, I do go to a prayer group, and one of the individuals there is experiencing brain changes. What I absolutely love is this individual is a musician. and they play violin. And they played at our last prayer gathering. And to watch this individual get up with such command, anyone that would have stepped in at that moment would have no idea. They would have never suspected that this individual had brain changes because they were up there. They said to the group of people that had gathered, I'm going to play a couple of measures to bring you in before you start to sing. Everything was just as it was just tapping into her strength and something she's so deeply familiar with that her ability to communicate, she never once wavered, which she might do just in an introduction. But when it came to offering up her music, it was profoundly strong, and she owned her talent, played the songs. It appeared effortlessly to us as the listeners. And everyone there is aware of her changes. And I think everyone there was so appreciative of the fact that for these moments, we got to see this individual shine and be delivering something in a way that suspended the reality of which we typically will see her in. What a gift. What a gift to us that we got to see this. And I think what a gift for her to once again be in community in a way where she was shining. People truly saw her and got to receive her gifts. And so I just say, what are the things that all of you that are watching, if you have a dementia diagnosis, what are the things that you were always passionate about? And it might be, I was on a debate team and I love debating. Well, create that in your community. Find a way to have really deep intellectual conversations. Maybe you love to read novels and you create a book club. I don't know what your things were. Maybe you used to knit or whatever it was, or you were a painter, or you were like me, you wrote songs. But what are the things that you always love to do? And offer those up. People will love to see you offering your gifts. And I know that some of you have said to me, and I know that you've said it to Sue, I can no longer do that to the ability of which I used to do it. And that may be true. Maybe there are some, neurological changes and maybe some fine motor skills that you no longer have where you can't do the craft you used to do. However, you probably still have some of the things that you've created, some of the things you've made, and those hold stories. People want to hear those stories. They want to see what you've done and they want to hear the stories behind what you've created. And so I say, yes, I see you. I see your gifts. We see it all the time. A woman brought in all of her music to me to share it with me because she knew I was a musician and she wanted to show her story of choirs that she belonged to. I was so taken by that. I was so overwhelmed with emotion that she would, number one, that she saw me, right? So this individual with a dementia diagnosis saw me. She saw, oh, Lisa's a fellow musician and I want to share this part of my life with her. And so I've been blessed to be holding this beautiful package of music, and I will return that with a gift from myself. These are just ways that we can step in now and say, I see you, and I want to know more about your life, more about your gifts. I want to also step in and say, I know that we're going into a lot of time here, and we want to acknowledge that we know time is really important to all of you. There's so much more we could dive into. I am going to briefly turn it over to Sue because something may have come up that she feels really needs to be shared right now. But I just want to let you know that we'll be slowly wrapping this up because we want you to be able to get on with your very busy days. And we know that there's a lot that care partners have to navigate. But Sue, is there anything that you feel really kind of needs to
Yeah, absolutely. That's
do?
stories is where I wanted to end with as well. That's absolutely where my mind was going. And I'd like to just close with a brief story about that very same woman who was on one of my Lewy body support groups. And this is a couple of years ago. She was amazing at quilt making. And I had invited onto the Zoom meetings the different people who had different kind of creative projects that they've done with their lives to show pictures of it and to talk about it. And so there was one man who I had asked whether he would be willing to come on and show pictures of his woodworking and pictures of his stained glass work. And he was hesitant because he said, "Well, I can't do any of that anymore." And what this woman with dementia, no longer able because of tremors in her hands to be able to do her quilting, said to him, a story that lives in me, and I want to share it with you from her wisdom. And she said to him, "David, once a treasure, always a treasure." So today we want to say, we see you. We see you, and we invite you to see one another as treasures in the midst of all of the changes, perhaps no longer the form that used to be, perhaps no capability to share the story or to do the gift any longer. But try to tell the stories if you can. It means so much. And even if it's a nonverbal decision to show that you see the importance of this person who's still on this life journey, just see one another with a heart of love. And that's, I think, where I would like to close my part today of just saying, let's be diligent in loving each other. And so I wish you great blessings for your day. And Lisa, do you want to close us off then?
Sure. I just will add, I see each of you as the treasure that you are. And we're just so grateful you're here. I don't think anything more needs to be said other than we really look forward to next time. We hope that you will join us again. And if there's a topic that you would like us to wrestle with for you, please, by all means, their website and our Facebook group is here. You can ask any questions that you'd like. Until next time, many blessings, my friends, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.